Good afternoon and welcome to our webinar, Why Should You Add Master Black Belt Certification to Your Resume? I'm Mallory Brown and I'm going to get us started with a few logistical things and then I'll turn it over to our presenter, Rick Haynes. First of all, again, thank you for joining us and taking the time to participate in today's webinar. The content is scheduled for 1 hour. We do encourage questions throughout the webinar, but if there are additional questions, we may go a bit beyond the 1 hour mark. We also have all of the phone lines muted, so please text in any of your questions through the GoToWebinar system. And we will definitely encourage and answer those if they are aligned with what we're talking about at the time. If not, we will definitely try to get any questions addressed at the end. Also, we would like to follow up with you. If you do not want to be contacted by Smarter Solutions, please just let us know in the exit survey at the end of the webinar. I'll now introduce our presenter, Rick Haynes. Rick Haynes has been a Lean Six Sigma practitioner for over 20 years and is one of Smarter Solutions' lead instructors. Through his career, he is certified as a Master Black Belt, Champion, and Yellow Belt. He teaches and certifies professionals in all of the Lean Six Sigma areas. His personal Lean Six Sigma work has spanned nearly all business types, manufacturing, transactional, along with research and development. I think you'll get, again, a lot of great expertise on the subject of Master Black Belt and what the certification can mean to you. So I will now turn it over to Rick. Again, thanks for joining.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for coming. This is a topic that I just love, being a Master Black Belt. So we're going to talk about some of the things that I found working with Master Black Belts over the, I'm trying to think when I became one, was probably close to 1999 or so I became a Master Black Belt, somewhere in that doesn't seem right, but it's somewhere around there. So I've been doing this a while. I've been a Master Black Belt through 3 organizations, and I'm now here at Smarter Solutions teaching. I've been here for about 6 years. Let's start off with what is a Master Black Belt. If you've been in the Lean Six Sigma field for a while or been watching it, you realize there's been a lot of black belt and green belt are the most 2 common things. Master Black Belt came up a number of years after the GE model started as people that have a mastery of the subject. But the differences in Master Black Belt training are significant compared to what you see in the other genre. So what is the real difference between a black belt and a Master Black Belt? Now, tongue-in-cheek, some people say just the word. If you've done it long enough, they call you a master. All right? Well, there's not much. And I think not much is sometimes the right answer because many of us that become Master Black Belts are already equivalently working in that level before we go after it. I see about half the students in our classes really are working at the Master Black Belt level and want to attain the certification and recognition of attaining the skill level. We are going to talk about what the skill level means going on. But basically, a Master Black Belt is more about the business side rather than the project side of Lean Six Sigma. In my words, as you can see here, black belts are trained from the beginning to get a problem statement, look downward in the organization, from that problem statement to find a problem or an issue and resolve it, fix it, improve it, whatever words you want to use. But when the Master Black Belts are in a place where they're actually looking upwards more than downwards in their business. They're looking at why do we make business decisions? How did we pick a project? What do I need to be guiding people to do? What are the future needs for improvement in my company? But that transition from looking downward and looking upward in a business is at some point the point when I would coach or counsel someone, that's when Master Black Belt should be considered for a career move. And I know there's black belts that do it, but that's where I'm trying to get to. So this webinar is really about what being a certified Master Black Belt does for you individually. We are also, I mean, this is still a for-profit company. I'm going to pitch what a Master Black Belt course is if you took it from us at the end. So what is a Master Black Belt. I think about 3 years ago, American Society of Quality came out with a Master Black Belt body of knowledge. What they did is they brought together, I think it was 15 to 20 seemingly good Master Black Belts and say, define who you are and what you do. So it's really empirically defined. If you go look at that, you'll find that well over half the body of knowledge is not about traditional Lean Six Sigma. It's about the business side of it, managing and doing stuff other than running projects. So really, Master Black Belts in general can be organizational leaders. They sell the ideas, they push or advocate for process improvement. And somebody say they're a role model, a mentor, a coach for other belts, Lean Six Sigma professionals. But at some transition to Master Black Belt, the prioritization of running a project diminishes. I think when I became a Master Black Belt when I was at Bechtel, they wanted a certification project, but I think I only ran one project in the next 4 years. So just running projects is not really all about Master Black Belt. We see a lot of roles in a business and why people sometimes choose to be either, they try to become a Master Black Belt, or I'll even say for myself, I was voluntold to be a Master Black Belt. The CEO came in and said, Rick, we want you to be a Master Black Belt. And at the time I was a Black Belt, I moved to Bechtel as a research statistician, and I loved my job. And I said, no, thank you, sir. And he said, you don't understand. I'd like you to be a Master Black Belt. And I go, oh, is the answer yes? And he said, of course. And that's how I got into it. I was happy with my job, but they pulled me out and sent me back to doing this, and haven't looked back since. Sometimes others know what's better for you than you do yourself. But one of the things is doing instruction. Another one is leading big improvements. A lot of Master Black Belts lead what I've heard called umbrella projects that are different portions of it are spawned off to other black and green belts, but they're really coordinating all the efforts. A fun one is that they become a staff to the corporate executives. I mean, that's where I had it. I was drug in to sit with the C-level people in the back of staff meetings to give advice, give direction, and interpret stuff, and that was quite fun. Internal consultant or mentor, of course, and then doing projects yourself. I'll admit, our class prepares you for all of these. Now here's my wow statement. Most people are stuck in a Master Black Belt role or end up in our class, aren't ready for all of those. But luckily, hardly anybody gets shoved into all of them all at once. And you really don't need all these competencies to become even certified. So I'll tell you, if you choose to stay in the field of process improvement, business improvement, whatever words you want to use, the concepts that you learn in a Master Black Belt course will stay with you and improve your career for the rest of your life. Now, this leads to certification. Well, certification tells people who don't know you what you can do. A lot of times within your own company, certification may not be as key because they know you. You've got a history. You've got a track record that they can depend on, and you can do well. But when you start working outside of your company with customers or suppliers, having that certification means a lot. And if you're out in the job market, it means a lot. And in large companies, cross-divisional work of certification helps a lot also. Now, before I leave this slide, everybody was asked to put in a couple comments about the topic before or as you signed up for the webinar. And interesting to me, now here, visualize what percent of the people who signed up were doing this for their personal gain, and what percent were doing for corporate gain or their employer. So think for a minute, visualize a number, and since 87% of you said it was for you and not for your business, you probably were pretty close. But what it tells me is this whole certification topic is personal. It's not about the business. This is about you, the person who's listening. And whether it's about, I guess that's fair to say, even though I haven't said it, but most people who are Lean Six Sigma inherently love to solve problems. Gaining tools to solve bigger problems is joyful. Now, it's a great secondary benefit that you get paid for it. Your company likes it, but some of us just love to solve problems. So I think that's why a lot of the people who are good at Lean and Six Sigma are, as Deming would say, intrinsically motivated. They're doing this for themselves, and it's really neat, again, to get paid for it. I know I think about that sometimes. So why do I get to talk about this? And I guess my story here. They told me one in a presentation class, you should always start somewhere early in a presentation to explain why you get to stand up and they're sitting down listening. Because if you don't lend some level of credibility, they may write you off as just somebody. But I came to Bechtel after leaving Texas Instruments as a black belt. And I was a black belt and engineering manager, and I'd had a lot of roles there. But I became a statistician, and I talked about being invited to meet. So once I got this master black belt, I started going to the staff meetings and had VP sponsors. It really opened up my access to the leadership. Like I said, the general manager put me on the staff as an advisor. So all of a sudden, I'm reporting to people that made about 3 times what I did, and I was pretty well paid. I became a coach, which was probably the first thing that they just assumed that if I was a master black belt, these executives would call me in and ask for my advice on how to deal with businesses, customers, improvements, how to work with their own teams. It was odd. What's not in here is I came out of the U.S. Navy as an officer, and they taught about respect and how to deal with people, so I was very comfortable sitting talking to somebody at that level of business and being polite, conversational, but direct. But that was a big change I wouldn't have bet on. I was pulled out of my job so I could advise people. They actually pulled me clear out of my master black belt role once to go work on a huge project with Bechtel that was in trouble and work on quality issues. Now that surprised me. I mean, it was actually the big dig in Boston, if you recall back then, if you're an American, but they were in trouble, and here's me, because I was a master black belt, they decided that I could go through the entire quality program and find out why a tunnel wall blew out. So these kind of things opened up to me as soon as I became the master black belt and certified. I became a worldwide corporate trainer for statistics. And the interesting one is they called me in to lead corporate strategic planning sessions. Now, if you look at this list, how much of this is really about Lean Six Sigma? Well, a little of the coaching. But the point is, a Master Black Belt certification opens you the doors to things way beyond the Lean Six Sigma projects. But what's interesting is getting a piece of paper did not change me or did not change my skills, as it would for you. The difference is the recognition of them. I think that's one of the reasons people go after Master Black Belt. Oh, I left the bullet off. I also was advising people well above my pay grade to things I thought they should darn well know already. But that's a long story in itself. Let's start with the first question because I want some interaction so you don't fall asleep listening to me. This is about what roles, Master Black Belt type roles, are you looking for to be involved in your company? Now this is beyond Lean Six Sigma stuff, but there are instructors, improvement programs, some of the things I've been talking about and we'll talk about later. So first of all, please check the one, I think this is just pick one. Oh, you get to pick all that apply, which you think would be where you'd like to go. We're seeing that some of the leaders are the executive staff member, consultant, and improvement leader. They're jumping up there. Interestingly enough, the winners are coming close, but just doing an instructor is low. And honestly, that's a reasonable thing. Mallory's posting this for us. The winner is, it jumped around, executive staff member and mentor consultant. Those end up being the big ones. You know what? Those are really fun jobs if you get them. Because now you have the ability to influence whole corporations. So thank you for that. Move on to the next slide. So it's good. This audience is really looking about self-improvement and becoming more of a, and I'll take both of those are really business leadership roles. So you move away from individual contributor into an advisory, which the nice thing about it is I always tell when I was doing interns and being a manager, if you do good work by yourself, you influence the business with the equivalent of one human being. But when you become a mentor, a coach, or a consultant and start helping others, one person now has the ability to influence 10, 20, or 50 man-years, or we'll say human equivalents of performance within a business. And if you don't realize it, that's when your pay goes up. All right. Working as an individual, you can only do so much, but when you make others more successful, you really advance your career. Let's talk about what our class actually gives you. And then we're going to talk about some of the roles you can get as a Master Black Belt. We do spend time on improvement, program management, and the business side, what the skills to do. And I think our class is not quite half, is really about the business side. But we do talk about Lean Six Sigma project tools and data analysis. Sometimes they're my funnest. It's the funnest part for me to teach because I am a statistician more than I am a psychologist, so I'm better at those hard skills. But there's some really neat analytical tools that most of us never saw in our black belt class. Or if we did, they went in one ear and out the other, and we didn't engage them because you couldn't relate them to something you already knew. But after being a black belt for a while, when you hear them this time, it will be very engaging. You'll get them. It's like a logistic regression or an analysis of variance with pass-fail data using sensor data analysis, or actually doing a y equals f of x equation when you've done a regression that includes both continuous factors and discrete factors. Now, you may or may not know all these. Good black belt programs have explained some of them to you, but when you get at this level, in the class we not only teach the tools, but we teach the why behind them and the limitations of all the primary tools so that you can walk out and both explain them to another belt, but also understand them at a level so if a manager who has no Lean Six Sigma background can understand what you're doing. So that's what we do with the tools. You get advocacy and the insight, the next two bullets. We have a slide coming up that will talk about those, but advocacy is what we have a guest instructor who speaks about selling your ideas within the company. And the second one is a second guest instructor who speaks about dealing with individuals. I've got a slide coming up on that, so I'll get back to them. We also teach about instructional skills, adult learning, how to be a teacher at the adult level. Now, we're not providing instruction of how to be an elementary school teacher, but we are giving you the insight of how you teach professionals, mostly at the Lean Six Sigma level of technology. We do some work on mentoring skills. I mean, being good at something doesn't mean you can share it to others. But if you even look at this, give them all 1 point, that's 4 things about the business and 2 about Lean Six Sigma, and I think that's about the ratio the course goes. Now those fake, I would not say fake, testimonials that I've taken away the person, this is what we've seen from people that get certification, if you have a question on that. We've got a few students who obtained a new job just based on their certification, that once they had it, they either got promoted well within their company, but a number of them used it to get a job in a new field. Working with a cell phone design and manufacturing company that closed their facility in the U.S., and one of the students called back and says, I got your black belt certification, and I found at job fairs they were more caring about the black belt certification than they were about my history and electronics, design, and testing of radio devices. But it allowed him to get into an entirely new field because of the certification, which is a recognition of your skills. It also says you can still learn after you left school. But it really did help. Now, on the opposite side, I had a recent student last year that they got their Master Black Belt and were able to then leave the Lean Six Sigma organization and become in the management path. So they used it to leverage themselves out of Lean Six Sigma and become an advisor or a helper. Now, as I wrote this up, there's a little disclaimer there, like you'd see at the bottom of your dating service or like that. You know, these are examples of stories of individuals, but they may not represent what will happen to you. But, of course, you knew that. What I get to is certifications open doors. All right? We'll talk about a couple of topics that open the doors and give you the chance at. This is my new one I found recently. It's come up in the last year or so, called a big data analysis, or analyst. As you see, I'm really referencing an article out of the Harvard Business Review. from September, and it's been in the Wall Street Journal and a number of publications now about the concept of businesses that are collecting data to the point they can't analyze it with traditional tools. You can't just look at a Pareto chart and decide what to do. What she said is this type of person has three big characteristics. They're ready and willing to experiment. In other words, they understand hypothesis testing, population sampling, design of experiments, and all that stuff, plus basic inference. But in other words, they can test the data to see what it says. They do mathematical reasoning well. And I like the quote, so I put it in here. Business users don't need to be statisticians, but they need to understand the proper usage of statistical methods. It's about interpreting metrics and the results of the models. In other words, modeling things to predict future performance. And now, you think about it, we get taught that stuff. And the last one is how to able to see the big picture. Data literacy. It's somewhat the transition to a master black belt is away from the projects to targeting the big picture. You don't get to the level of a good black belt without being a system thinker, a process thinker, knowing interdependencies and understand how things relate. If you look at this list, and I changed it to master black belt, you'd say that this list is pretty close to what we all do. So this is something that it opens the door. When you become a good master black belt, you can go into this role of working with businesses with data. Now, the kind of stuff they're talking about is like Netflix trying to build models to decide what the next movie to recommend is. It's what Google does to look at adjusting search algorithms. It's what, there's an article about a year ago about Target. It was mining data on what people view in catalogs and what they actually buy to provide them targeted advertisements. Those are the things that this is about. It's not about a t-test. It's about looking for patterns and tendencies in data that you can test and say, yes, these indicators mean this would be the right behavior to go. You see a lot of it, I think, at Walmart when they target different products, even at different stores within the same town, based on the demographics, based on what's sold, based on a lot of external data. That's what this is about. And I've done a little bit of it. It's really fun. Next topic, because I'm going to throw another question on in case you were napping. Given a good, successful master black belt, not the course, but visualize a person who's a master black belt. If they're successful, what's the ratio of hard skills, statistics, things like that, versus soft skills, people-oriented business relationships, do you think they should work at? What ratio of their skills are being used to be successful? So 50-50 mean they're about equal. If you think they got to be more of a project guy, they'd be more hard. But if they're more about people, they'd be soft. So let's see what you're putting in there. Oh, we're getting a clear winner coming up here. That I'm looking at the title with all those numbers and get confused. We'll give you another 10 seconds here. We'll close it off, and I appreciate it. The real winner on this is 70-30 soft to hard, I believe. Mallory will post it up here. 50% of you picked that, but if you look at the other side of it, only 14% of you led that you had to have more hard than soft. Now, I proudly concur with this. But again, every effort you give got a different ratio. But the best master black belts I've known were not always the best in statistics, but they sure were the best in business. So you confirm what I believed. Reminds me of another story I'll tell. I have become, this is aside what you may face if you become a master black belt. Bechtel made me a master black belt. I got my certification done. I'm in one of the corporate training celebrations at Bechtel. Every black belt in the company, if they got certified in our division, met in Las Vegas in 1 year. So everybody who'd done in the last year met for presentations of their projects. They met the corporate executives and the CEO. And while we were there, they had just started their Master Black Belt program, so there was 8 of us. And the chief operating officer, second in command for the company, brought us as we're prepping for this to this little meeting room, sit down and go, what do you think about our methods and what we're doing? What advice would you give? And everybody in the room were really nice corporate followers, and I was a bit of a rebellion. So I asked him, do you really want our opinion? He said yes. And so I was sort of blunt but polite and explained that I thought there were some real weaknesses of what we were doing and here, and here. And I thought they could make some real advantages by changing these. He thanked me much for that. And that was the end of the meeting, but these guys chewed me out afterwards for talking that way to an executive. I said, but he asked. And so I was a bit bothered that I had done the wrong thing, and Mallory's probably right next to me laughing like Rick would be bothered by giving his opinion. But then about a year later at the next meeting, the chief operating officer, while he's giving his opening to this thing in this banquet room with probably 500 people, said, and one of our master black belts is behaving like I want. He walked clear over, asked me to stand up, put his arm around me, and said, this guy told me I was wrong the first time he met me. And he was polite about it. I didn't necessarily agree, but everybody was shocked. He said, you shouldn't be shocked. You've been put in a job to give your opinion and back it up. And he said, he did. And he said, I hope all of you would be polite, and if you really believe it, share it. That was a good point in my career, although I was blushing a bit. But that's what they expect of master black belts. Be polite, give your opinion, but also don't argue at the end, but that's our job. Let's move on to my topics. I guess enough about me. What should we do about analysis? I mean, honestly, the black belt level body of knowledge for analysis gets you almost everything. But as a master black belt, there are cases. Let's say if a green belt gives you the 80% solution, a black belt about the 95%. So the master black belt's got to get that last little bit of stuff. These are the tools you may have seen that didn't use. If you're going to walk out in your business as a master black belt, there are analytical tools that you must be able to explain fully to the other belts, but also sometimes take it upon yourself to do the complex stuff. So I've listed here some of the hard skills that I think a master black belt should be able to execute if needed. So I guess recognize when it's used, they'll go back to their desk and reteach themselves how to use it. Logistic regression, I use it periodically, but it's one of the most powerful tools out there for black belts and master black belts in a transactional environment, or one that just has pass-fail data. But I don't use it enough that even when a client needs it or a student, I crack open my book or go to the Minitab help screens before I talk about it or dive into it. That's what a master black belt does. They recognize the need by memory, but they don't always remember how to do it. But you pull open Minitab or whatever and go do it. Now, if you have any questions on these, bring them up in the questions. I guess I didn't reinforce that earlier, but if you have any questions, please type them in on the GoToMeeting interface. Mallory will see them, and she'll interrupt me at appropriate time, and we'll talk about them, or we'll talk about them in the end, but please ask. Let me pick one of these. Mixed input analysis. That's when you really, at the end of your analyze phase, you've got two continuous variables and a discrete variable, and you mix them together, run a single analysis that involves all three. And you'd say, do I need to? Well, no. I mean, a green belt gets by with one factor analysis. But what you end up doing is now I can look at correlations and interdependencies between discrete factors and continuous ones, such as volume and location. Without these tools, how do you look at the true modeling of a process? It also gives us, and along with all these, ability to model businesses to predict future performance as the inputs change. I think that's the hard skills. If you have questions on them, just ask. Teaching and coaching will be the next one. Even if you don't teach, is a role as a master black belt. You end up mentoring, working with people, coaching them, doing little spot sessions, seminars on topics. So you really need to be comfortable with that. And one thing I've learned teaching, if you can't answer at least one question deep, and I believe you should be two, you're going to struggle as a teacher. So you have to be comfortable with taking a question and know what to do if you don't know the answer, and know how to answer it politely, and if they didn't get it, answer it another way. But that's really a soft skill, not a hard skill. So it's a people topic, but we all need to do that, and it's somewhat a good teacher is also the same skill you need to go convince the leadership that this is the way to go, because many of those are teaching moments also.
Rick, we have a question.
Oh, go ahead, Mallory.
And I believe these are from the previous slide about hard skills. And the question is, almost all of these are part of the black belt body of knowledge. Is the difference between black belt and master black belt the experience to exercise these skills?
Oh, No, I think the master black belt skill level becomes not only the ability to use them, but to explain them and interpret them better. Honestly, the sensor data analysis, which is reliability analysis, has been removed from the black belt body of knowledge. It was removed when they added lean. I don't think black belts get complex DOE either. Maybe you just get basic fractional factorials. But the difference at the master black belt level is you know how to apply these tools outside of the standard example. So it's really like logistic regression, if you know it, it's pass-fail data with continuous factors. Well, you can do that in Minitab or JUMP or any of them just by putting in the data and hitting a button. But a master black belt should recognize that logistic regression can also be used for ANOVA, if it can be used for a design of experiments analysis. It can be used to combine odd data sets that you don't really have good data. That's what a master black belt does, and for the sensor data analysis, I think that is a complex topic now. But in our class, we teach the master black belts how to use those tools to recover bad data, overly rounded data, or data from different sources that have different numbers of significant figures. I worked with a black belt 2 days ago, on Monday, about using this method to get through a bunch of data that it was cycle time data that they'd recorded 0 a whole bunch of times, just because the way they collected is it subtracted the start date or the finish date from the start date, and they had zeros. He goes, I can't analyze it with zeros because none of the transformations worked. It should be a log normal distribution, but it can't. We recovered the data by using the sensor data analysis. So that's what I get to. It's not just you can understand the tool, but a master black belt needs to know how to use it everywhere. It's like when you pick up your toolbox, instead of just knowing that a screwdriver does screws, you realize that it can work as a chisel, and maybe I shouldn't say this stuff, but you learn how to use the tools to get the right answer, even though they're not necessarily the first choice. I hope that answered your question. Thank you for asking. I covered this one. We're back to business leadership. I guess I should have told the story about Bechtel now, but literally a master black belt should be confident enough to work with people well above their pay grades, being polite, become an advisor, but not, you can't be arrogant. You realize your role is to advise, but you should be very comfortable when they ask you what your belief is. You got to sell it, talk about it, but don't be shy. Master black belts, I never see anyone I've ever trained go into a business meeting and be quiet. They take a leadership role. They care. Now, if you don't get your way, you understand that it's still, you may not know everything, but you communicate it if asked. So they communicate with confidence, and they can realize when they give an opinion, they start talking about the confidence of their opinion or the risk involved with adoption. I thought a lot of my work with executives was really about understanding risk. Yes, it sounds good, but you realize, here's the possibility these things could go wrong. What can we do to mitigate them? It's somewhat you're using the control plan and the improvement plan topics to go work with your leadership on making a business decision. And the last one there is just advocate for good ideas. And I think I'm coming up next soon on the slide of our guest instructors, but every master black belt and most black belts I say, they're put in a position they have to drive a change with no authority. And if you get a master black belt, you actually have to drive more change with next to no authority either. So part of that is something we have to learn to know how to go do. And boy, when you're good at this, you can go work anywhere in a business. Improvement program manager. Most common role that master black belts do is leading their improvement program. The executives delegate it to a master black belt. So what does that involve? Well, you become a supervisor at some level. You're managing staff. You're leading big projects. You're helping select projects. You're coaching the staff about how should they apply your people for the best gain of the business. And I guess which surprisingly is the most difficult for many of us, is become financially knowledgeable about the business. Most people, when they become a master black belt or even a senior black belt, realize how important the financial view of a project is in adoption. You start understanding why we do things in business, because it's about money. So that's a big part of our course too, is financial statements and cash flow, how to assess the true value of change and giving guidelines that can help you sell something by tracking the different costs and really making a solid cost-based estimate of the benefits of a project. Now, I still call that a soft skill rather than hard, because what you're doing is you're learning how to speak to your leadership in a way that convinces them. So the financial side is part of being an improvement program manager.
We have a couple questions.
Oh, please go ahead.
I value the skill sets that MBB training impart on you, but does it not dilute the value of, say, a postgraduate degree in industrial engineering or statistics?
Dilute. If I take dilute as it removes away, no, I think it adds to. First of all, I have a master's in statistics. It's surprising how few people that can read that know what it really means I can do. Because it's really more about logical thought and risk assessments as it is analysis. But I think it's complementary. I would say getting a Master Black Belt certification helps a Lean Six Sigma practitioner like having an MBA does to a business manager. They're still a manager, but as soon as you say, I have an MBA, people assume your knowledge is broader and they're more apt to apply you. I think it doesn't take away from a business degree to get an MBA or a finance degree. What it really does is it shows wider set of competencies and basically adds to it. So if you're a statistician or industrial engineer and you're trying to work in the Lean Six Sigma field, you probably can do most of the things they do, but without recognition, it's difficult. I know one of the people who signed up for the webinar said, I've been doing this type of stuff for years, but without a certification, people don't see it. And like I said earlier, within your own company, that's not usually an issue. But if you're going to try to talk to somebody who doesn't know you outside of your company or even within, that certification is like, it's like a shortcut to what you can do. Now, there are people who get certified that are as useless as you fill in the blanks because they're all inappropriate. But when I was a Master Black Belt on my site in Bethel, a guy walked up and said, I want to be in the Lean Six Sigma program. I've got my Black Belt. I said, oh, where'd you get your training? He said, I went to ASQ. I said, did you do it before you worked here? He said, no. And the person was an internal trainer who didn't do process improvement. I knew him quite well. And I go, well, show me what you did. Well, all he did is he studied up on the books. He had good skills, but he had never run a project in his life and got certified. Well, I wouldn't take him in the program. So if there are people that can get a certificate and certified, they still can't work very well. So you have to screen that out. But no, I don't think it takes away from it. I mean, an industrial engineer is probably the closest college degree to being taught what a black belt does. I mean, those people with that background blend very well into it because it's a very system-oriented business. It talks about data collection, some really neat things they teach, but being a good industrial engineer doesn't mean to be a black belt. Being a good black belt doesn't mean you'd be an industrial engineer. I actually got turned down for an IE job with my black belt criteria when I didn't have an IE degree. Probably the right thing for them to do. But I'll tell you, they're very complementary. That's like broadening the list of things that you're capable of doing. So I don't think they take away at all.
Okay, and the next question. Does the MBB have to be a specialist or a generalist for applying these soft skills? Since
I can't have dead air space on the phone call, so I'm going to talk while I think. Most every master black belt I find is a specialist in something. Like for me, you'd say it's probably statistics. I've had ones that are in finance. So almost all master black belts are really excellent specialists for something. The master black belt piece opens up the soft skills so that they're able to go to show they can do other things, but it really helps them be a better specialist too. I don't know if I'm answering the question well, but I'll tell you, soft skills are the hardest thing to teach. I can teach hard skills all day long, but there's people that can't do soft skills. So I don't think that, I've seen generalists come in too. They do excellent also. But a great master black belt that's a generalist knows to bring specialists on when they need it. I hold that role for a couple of our past students. that they get to a problem. They just don't know the next step. I mean, I guess I had one today about someone doing a complex analysis of variance, that the p-value was slightly above 5%, but they were troubled by the fact that they really wanted to accept it. But that's my background. They had a great project, they're moving the right thing, but they needed a backup on a detailed statistic thing. But good master black belts do that. They get the people they need. So I don't think that there's any specific benefit to a generalist or a specialist. I don't know if I answered that either, but is there another question, or are we going to keep moving? All right, I got about 15 minutes left. We have a new poll. This is an interesting one. This asks you the MBB skills we've talked about, how well are they utilized within your current business to make business decisions? So I'm really talking about at the executive or senior management level, are they using these type of concepts in making their business decisions? That's like risk assessments, data analysis, or are they just shooting from the gut and guessing? So consider things like strategic planning, data analysis, such as that. Now, if I look at it, middle of the road performance is about winning. I don't think anybody said nothing for 100%. If anybody said 0, a little bit. We're going to close the poll off now. Mallory, if you do it and post what we have. What you'll see is 50%. It would make a sort of a nice histogram with less than 50% at 31%. So we got a little bit of a skewed distribution, but it's on the lower end. And I guess I find when I look at this in the few corporations I've worked at or consulted at, the upper level business decisions are often made by gut feeling and not using the tools we were given. That's why master black belts are pulled in as an advisor at that level so often, because the people that rose to the top were people that had great soft skills and people skills, but they weren't analytical generally, and they're sort of at a loss to use that stuff, and that's why we get pulled up there to help them increase the analytics at the executive level. So that fits what I expect. We're less than half or less, but all of us believe we could get more usage of this. All right, thank you for that. I got to the recognition of skills. It led to the 2 questions. It really was part of the answers to 2 of the questions that have come up from you folks listening to this. But I'm sure some of you are saying right now, I already have all these skills. Why do I need a certificate or certification? I think the answer is because people recognize what it means. It's hard to say, I can do this. I mean, if I'm looking at the resumes for people to hire, they've done regression, they've ran projects, they've done improvements. They could list a whole bunch of stuff, but if they list I'm a certified master black belt working for 5 years doing business improvement, I'm assuming at that point that those words say an awful lot about capability. They can do a test, they can make a control plan, they can do brainstorming, they can lead a team. Instead of listing skills, it tells me they've got a whole set of stuff. Now, again, they may not really be able to do it, but that's what certification does. It lends credence to somebody who doesn't know you, and it gives you a better starting impression. I mean, why do people get a professional engineering certification after they have an engineering degree? Doesn't help them do their job anymore, but if you sign a document as an engineer and you're a professional engineer, it's given more authority. So did it change their ability to review a drawing? No, but people take it that way. The other question, I have my little joke one at the end here, but if you really have all those skills and they're not utilizing all these skills in your business, I think that's part of your answer there too. Like I said, when I became a master black belt, it opened doors that would never have been opened for me before. I couldn't imagine as a statistician going to the corporate staff meeting and advising them on how to make business decisions on high-level business performance. Unique, all right? But the bottom little yellow box said sometimes an external recognition of skills is more important than an internal one. And it's truly not fair, but it's true. I had a consulting job late last month, but I guess, why did you bring me in to do this? You already knew all this stuff. And they said, our culture requires an outsider to tell them. They won't listen to us. That's another reason certification's good. Now that little pitch of what's a good course. If you have a company And my guess is the audience here may or may not have internal certification of Master Black Belts. If they have it, you should be doing it. Now, at the end of that certification, you're considered equal to everybody in the population. Some are good, some aren't. The other choice is external courses. Now, 10 years ago, I don't think there was external courses for Master Black Belts. They were all internally created. In the last 10 years, we've seen a bunch of them come up, but there still is not near as many Master Black Belt courses as there are Black Belt courses. So I think anybody with a Black Belt thinks they can teach a Black Belt, but Master Black Belts are tougher. But it should cover body of knowledge from the ASQ. It should have excellent reference materials because we don't know which of these tools we learn we're going to need in the 6 months or in a year or two. It should have lots of soft skills and lots of business in it. That's what a good external course should be. What's typical internally? Generally, if we were asked a bunch of people who do Master Black Belt training, they'd say 3 to 5 years of Black Belt work as a project leader and as a mentor of others, because you need to have seen enough different types of projects and data so you can generalize it and actually learn better. Generally, they had to do additional tool training, and when I was at Bechtel, you just had to go take a course in something else. They actually assigned us a competency that the company didn't have, and we were to go learn it, come back and teach the other people as part of our Black Belt. A lot of them say run a Master Black Belt project, which even within Smarter Solutions is undefined what a Master Black Belt project is. And a lot of them require you to teach as part of your certification, because those are companies that are looking to replace teachers and consultants like me from teaching. But the potential issues with these, as I ask, is Rule 4 of the funnel. You only can be taught what the people in front of you or within the company know. So every time you train somebody, you have a little less knowledge than the person who trained you. Too many companies say they're going to limit the training of their courses because we don't use this tool here. Well, are they not using it because the people don't know it, or they're not using it because they don't need it? When I've been in companies, I always fight that, well, we don't use the chi-squared test, so let's not teach it. Or we don't do design of experiments, no one's done one, we've done 1 in 3 years, so why teach people? But that's a difficult call, so I usually go against that one. Rule 4 of the funnel, but also good black belts don't always make good teachers. Rule 4 of the funnel, because I can't help teach in a little bit, it's a Deming experiment where you held a funnel up on a stand, dropped the marble through it, and plotted where the marble ended to make distributions. He had 4 rules. Now, the 4th rule was, after each analysis, say that's really where the process is, redefine it as good, move the funnel over on top of the last drop and drop a new marble. We find it's the most unstable of all process control methods. But it's really what we do when if we do on-the-job training, or the last person certified becomes the new teacher for the next person. So as you walk around, every time you do it, you lose something. The example we talk about in class when we teach this would be, if I only can afford 1 can of paint at a time and I'm painting all around the outside of my house, so I do 1 can of paint, I run back to the Home Depot or Lowe's and say, give me another can of paint that's got this color. They match the color and give it to you. By the time you go around the house, the colors don't match, because each one has been an estimate of the one before it. And that's what Rule 4 of the funnel is. And that's why internal training can be a problem, because you're not expanding the body of knowledge that way. Now I'm getting to our guest instructors, which I consider myself a fine instructor, but these 2 guys are far better than I am, and they're part of our Master Black Belt class. And I think it's what makes our class unique compared to everyone out there. Dr. John Daly, he's a University of Texas business professor, tenured, a bunch of these fancy chairs, but he gives a class that he says is his most popular class he teaches in the MBA program called Advocacy. So what he's speaking to is business students about how to advocate for their ideas and really drive change in a business when they don't have the authority. We've been teaching Master Black Belts here at Smarter Solutions for probably 10, 12 years. He gets exactly what we do. He's been a consultant for many Six Sigma companies. But he speaks to the Master Black Belt side of what we face walking in to drive change as a business. So he's really talking about change management and the organizational structure. We have Dr. Richard Grant, who comes in also in each of these for a half day, speaks about change management for individuals. He starts out with the Myers-Briggs type inventory and walks through and really makes you understand why people are different, why you have to approach them differently, why an improvement plan's got to look at different types of people and how communication plans must be different. But he's speaking about the differences in individuals and how, as a good Master Black Belt, we have to address everybody. And he also has been speaking to Master Black Belt courses for years and thoroughly understands what we do. These are two great parts of the class, but they're all soft skills. We also got books. We teach out of Forrest Breifogel's Integrated Enterprise Excellence series. They're an expansion or improvement over his Implementing Six Sigma books that he had written before. What's neat is he's got a whole book about DMAIC projects, which is his volume 3, but volume 2 is really about Lean Six Sigma business systems, how to apply the tools that we learned as black belts to manage a business. But that's a lot about identifying projects, doing scorecards, but it's a how-to book to implement that too. Great books. You also get, along with our course, all our black belt and green belt reference materials. You don't get the slides. But you get our roadmap, all the helpers. You get a, I'm missing something. What else am I missing? What? Oh, no. We never give you electronic copies of any of our slides, but you don't see the black belt slides at all. You get the ones for your Master Black Belt course. But what you do get is the reference material, the books, the guides, and such as that we would give a black belt. So even though we don't cover brainstorming in the Master Black Belt class, you do get references to it. That's what I'm trying to lead to. This is our roadmap, little picture of our, oh, that's the other stuff I forgot, the roadmaps. Those little pictures on the screen you see are shrunken a bit. The one that's long with all the colored bars, that's really 96 inches long. If you want to get in the course, we give you a PDF of the entire roadmap with all the drill downs, plus the one on the right is our business system roadmap. If you choose to adopt some of the integrated enterprise excellence stuff, it tells you how you can go do it. I mean, we are system thinkers here, and having a process map that explains everything can be wonderful. The last part about it is it's surprising to me how many black belts say, I got my certification and I'm done. Those are the folks that got their certification as a stepping stone to something else, and it was like a check on a resume. Now, honestly, that's not a bad thing to do. I know Master Black Belts to get the check on the resume so they can lead Lean Six Sigma and go to management. But if you really believe in this stuff, you can't just get a certificate and be done. Continuing education is important. I mean, here at Smarter Solutions, we created a course we called the Graduate Course. It was the Master Black Belt topics that were really just about doing a DMAIC project. And we thought there'd be a big draw for people that don't want to be Master Black Belts, but they want to be a better black belt. Surprisingly, we have never seen a big draw for the course. And I don't know why, but for some reason people think they're done with their first set of training. Honestly, there's things you need to do to keep up. Now, we offer stuff without taking a course. Here we have two blogs we keep on our website. One's by me, for practitioners. It's really student questions and answers and other topics that Master Black Belts care about. Forrest Breifogel writes one about enterprise business systems, project selection, scorecards, and business side. We've got a resource library. You can download articles and watch old webinars like this one. And we have a newsletter and ongoing topics to keep you up. If you really care about Lean Six Sigma, business improvement, business process management, or any of them, you need as an individual to find a way to keep yourself up with what's modern. So we give you ways to go do that. I think I'm at the end of what I wanted to talk about. So if you have questions that are outstanding about anything about Master Black Belt, please type them in. What I talked about is the roles we take, other jobs that it might lead us to, why certification matters, ongoing learning, and again, what our course is. And I guess I need to also pitch our course. We have a Master Black Belt course coming up. It starts on the week of January 14th, and the second week of it is February 18th. It's a great course. And if you live in the upper parts of North America and Canada where they have winter, it's a great time to come to Austin to get that course because it's warm. Is there any questions coming in at all?
Yes. The first question is, do the textbooks cover the ASQ body of knowledge for MBB?
What's interesting is, no, they don't, because a couple of the body of knowledges are never in a textbook. If you look at the body of knowledge, I think a third of it is essay questions. We cover the topics, but you got to learn them yourself. And the one piece of the body of knowledge that we do not cover in our classes, and I don't even think it's in the textbook, is the history of Lean and Six Sigma, which there is a section of questions on it, who wrote this quote and things like that that are really not in our course. But the hard and the soft skills for the Master Black Belt body of knowledge are entirely covered in the course. And most of the soft skills are in the textbooks, but not as, if you look it up on ASQ, they have questions like, if you had this problem in the deployment of Lean Six Sigma, what would you recommend? So there's questions like that in the body of knowledge that they're not directly discussed, but they're covered in, I mean, you have to synthesize the other topics to put them in there. So I would say yes, if you completed our course, did the project, as long as you understand how ASQ writes questions, you would meet the body of knowledge and pass.
Are there topics in sales situations that are covered in the course?
We do cover sales is one of the, it's one method to explain what we do, because honestly, sales, I mean, I got an improvement of my Master Black Belt skills by taking a sales course, and it's talked about often in the course, the similarities between sales and advocacy for ideas. Because the soft skills that are required to do sales are the same ones that are required to get things done in a business. Now, we do talk about sales examples with respect to a project and how you might apply tools with the data you would get from a sales process. And I think those are the two ways we consider sales in the course.
Okay, and is the course service-oriented or manufacturing-oriented?
I'd like to say both and neither. Our classes generally have less than half of them come from manufacturing anymore. But the thing is, the course talks about the type of data, not necessarily the source. So, I mean, you treat continuous data one way, whether it's from a service transactional organization or from a manufacturing one. You treat attribute data the same. So we spend time in the context because really a Master Black Belt should be comfortable in both the genres, including an R&D genre, which we talk about also in the course, of how to apply the tools and the soft skills across all three. Good. Personally, I think if you're in a completely service industry, adopting the manufacturing model or paradigm into a service organization really helps you see weaknesses in it that you don't get if you stay in the service-oriented thing. So we try to get you to go flip back and forth on your paradigm when you view processes.
Okay, and what are the prerequisites for completing the MBB certification?
Well, you have to finish our course for us to certify you. To get in the course, you have to be a valid black belt that understands the basic DMAIC process, because we don't teach all the steps of DMAIC. We won't be talking much about problem statements and brainstorming. So you have to be comfortable. I'd say you should know the green belt body of knowledge in and out, because we really start most of our topics on projects at what a black belt knows that a green belt doesn't, and then build from there. To certify, you need to complete a project that demonstrates the skills of a Master Black Belt. So, like I said, it's soft how we define that, but you have to use some of the advanced skills that you learn in the class. We also offer a certification if you're going to do an enterprise level assessment of your business. I won't go into it all right now, but if you're not running projects, we have another certification path of doing, it's basically scorecards, metrics, reporting, and you walk until you generate a project, proposed improvement project list for your business. So there's a path for people that don't run projects, but they're business leaders. And there's a couple other little ones, but you have to provide a demonstration of the tools that you can use them. There are some coaching sessions that go with the class, and then you finish the class. I think that's it. Yeah. Okay,
and the last question is, you mentioned coaching. What coaching is provided with the class?
I think to get it right, we guarantee, I think it's 3 hours. You get 3 hours out of class for coaching on your project or Master Black Belt topics. That's generally remote by email or remote by telephone. Not everybody uses it, surprisingly enough. but it includes the time to finish your certification. So we commit basically 3 labor hours of somebody like me to help you get certified. Now, we don't track, Mallory's going to shake her head, but we don't track it like a lawyer. Those are general estimates. That's what we end up doing. So yeah, but that doesn't include time within class, after class, during the 2 weekly sessions. Those are all included with the training. I think we're about it. Appreciate you coming to the webinar. Hope you learned something. You have contact information for Smarter Solutions. If you have anything else you want to know, please write. I know in our research library we have an article in there about how do you judge a good Master Black Belt program. Of course it shows that we have a good one, but we don't have the only good one out there. So I appreciate your time. If you have questions, you'll have an exit survey to go through. Please fill it out. And again, as Mallory said, if you check a box, we won't contact you. But if you don't, we may ask you if there's more you want to know. So thank you, everybody.